Lisa Carter, 58 years old, stepped out of the security checkpoint gate at Atlanta International Airport. The pale yellow lights shone down the corridor, the bustling footsteps of thousands blending into a continuous, lively rhythm. Lisa carried a small suitcase, her face radiating confidence and calm after a long business trip. She just wanted to get home quickly, see her loved ones again, and continue her meaningful work protecting justice as a federal prosecutor. But the moment Lisa approached the exit, two men in police uniforms suddenly appeared blocking her path. Their eyes were cold, their voices deep and devoid of any friendliness. "Please come here to check your documents." One of them ordered, his tone serious, but also filled with unspoken implications. Lisa stopped slightly, surprised but still composed. She took out her ID from her wallet and handed it to them without any reaction. What she did not expect was that this check, which seemed like a routine procedure, quickly turned into a nightmare. The two officers not only checked her documents, but also scrutinized every gesture and glance of hers. They called Lisa by a different name, one she had never heard before. Lisa sighed inwardly, realizing she had been mistaken, in a way full of discrimination and injustice. In a crowded airport, Lisa was handcuffed and led away amidst the shock and disbelief of those around her. A woman, a powerful prosecutor who had fought for justice, was now the victim of misidentification, prejudice, and subtle racial discrimination. This story is not just about a mistake, but about resilience and the strength of a person facing injustice. Let's step into Lisa Carter's journey to hear her story told not just in words, but with heart strength and unwavering determination. Before we dive into the main part of the story, leave a comment below to tell us where you are listening to this story and what time it is now. We're eager to know which lands the story has reached and who it has touched. Now let's begin together, Lisa. Carter was not just an ordinary woman stepping out of that airport. She was a 38-year-old federal prosecutor who had devoted her entire life to fighting for justice. Born and raised in a middle-class family in Atlanta, Lisa witnessed many injustices from a young age. Her father, a high school teacher, always taught her, justice is never natural. It must be protected with courage. Lisa chose the path of law, graduated from a prestigious university, and quickly rose through the ranks in the federal legal system. She became known for her integrity, decisiveness, and tireless dedication. Her story was not only about her career, but about steadfastness in overcoming all barriers and social prejudices. In a recent interview, Lisa shared, "As a prosecutor, I feel I'm not only standing on the side of the law, but also on the side of those abandoned by the system." She was also the life partner of Robert Jennings, the Atlanta City Police Chief, who stood by her through the toughest times. When Lisa was mistakenly arrested at the airport, she maintained calmness and clarity. But deep inside was a determination not to let injustice continue. That night in the cold jail cell, Lisa sat upright, her eyes firm but weary. Another officer entered, scrutinizing her. "You still have that attitude. If I were you, I'd be scared by now." Lisa replied gently but firmly, "Fear solves nothing. Justice needs to be protected, and I will not stay silent." Back to the moment of arrest, amid loud voices and the airport noise, Lisa stood facing Officer Ryan Matthews, who interrogated her with a clearly contemptuous attitude. Matthews said, "What's your name again?" "I don't believe you are who you say you are." Lisa calmly answered, "I am Lisa Carter, federal prosecutor." "You can check my records if you don't believe me," Matthews sneered. "Prosecutor, here no one is exempt from the rules." Lisa looked him straight in the eyes, her voice serious. "I'm not asking for exemption. I just want to be treated fairly." A nearby passenger whispered to their friend, "She clearly isn't causing any trouble. Why are they treating her like this?" In the processing room, Lisa was handcuffed roughly. Matthews shouted, "Don't think you have any rights here. These are our rules." Lisa silently glanced around, noticing curious and sympathetic looks from passers-by. She understood clearly this was not just her personal battle, but a fight for millions judged solely by the color of their skin. A few hours later, Robert Jennings showed up at the police station. He entered the holding cell with a stern face. "Remove Lisa's handcuffs immediately. She's a federal prosecutor, and I won't allow anyone to abuse their power against her." Matthews frowned but dared not argue. Robert looked Lisa in the eyes and said gently, "You are not alone. I will stand by you and fight for justice." Lisa gave a small smile, feeling warmth amid the trials. Through the tense night, Lisa and Robert prepared for the legal battle ahead. She knew that winning required more than personal strength. It demanded unity, transparency, and relentless perseverance. Lisa thought quietly, this is only the beginning, but this first step will never be forgotten. Lisa Carter's journey is not just her own story. It is the story of everyone who has been unfairly treated, mistaken, and discriminated against because of their skin color or background. And through this story, we're reminded of the power of truth, resilience, and faith in justice. The atmosphere at Atlanta Airport suddenly became tense. Lisa Carter, still calm on her face, stood facing young Officer Ryan Matthews, who looked her up and down with suspicion, shining a small flashlight over her with undisguised doubt. "Who do you think you are to be treated like this?" Matthews asked, his voice heavy with disrespect. Lisa responded calmly, "I'm just doing my job like any other citizen." Matthews squinted, staring at her face as if doubting her words. "Where are your documents? I don't see your name on the suspicious passenger list." Lisa gently took out her driver's license and government ID, handing them to Matthews. "These are my documents. I'm returning from a business trip to New York." Matthews took them quickly, flipping through the papers. "The Maziad, things still aren't clear. Do you know I have a duty? And that duty is to keep the airport safe." Lisa looked Matthews straight in the eyes, her voice unwavering. "Safety cannot be an excuse for abuse of power and discrimination." A nearby passenger stepped closer, whispering to their friend, "She's so calm. I think she knows her rights well." Matthews shrugged and continued interrogating. "I heard about a recent theft. Are you involved?" Lisa gave a faint smile. "I know nothing about that. And if I were involved, I wouldn't be standing here like this." Matthews suddenly changed his tone, becoming more aggressive. "If you don't cooperate, I'll have to use force." Lisa stood upright, unshaken. "Force? Do you know the law?" "I am a federal prosecutor. I deserve respect." Matthews frowned, his eyes growing cold and sharp. "You're just an ordinary person here." The tense exchange thickened the atmosphere. Passengers started paying attention. Some quietly took pictures and recorded videos with their phones. Lisa's understood clearly she was not only fighting for herself, but for those who have been and are still unfairly treated just because of their skin color. She looked Matthews in the eyes and said, "You may mistake the person, but the racial discrimination in your behavior is undeniable." Matthews stiffened, muttering, "I'm just following procedure." Lisa responded, "Procedure is never an excuse to strip citizens of their rights." Suddenly, a voice called out from behind Matthews, "Who is she?" It was the voice of a higher-ranking officer who had just arrived. Matthews turned around, his voice hoarse. "She's acting suspiciously. We're checking her." The senior officer looked at Lisa, then at Matthews with doubt. "Let me see her documents." Lisa handed over her ID, her eyes steady with confidence. The senior officer nodded, his gaze serious. "If you are a federal prosecutor, you deserve to be treated with respect. But we also have to ensure airport safety." Lisa replied, "Safety and fairness must go hand in hand." Matthews still held on to his suspicious attitude. He shouted loudly, "You will be arrested if you don't cooperate." Lisa looked into those cold eyes, her heart feeling crushed, but she remained calm. Wrongful arrest cannot be a solution. The surrounding passengers began murmuring. A few tried to intervene, but no one dared to step forward. An elderly woman whispered to her daughter, "Unbelievable, in this day and age, this still happens." In a moment, Matthews decided to handcuff Lisa. "You're coming with us." Lisa did not resist. She knew it wouldn't help. Instead, she thought, this fight is just beginning. I won't let them win. As she was led away, she looked toward the onlookers, and in that gaze was a promise to herself and the community she would fight to the end. The story between Lisa and Matthews was not just a personal confrontation, but a symbol of a flawed system, a society still struggling to eliminate racism and abuse of power. Through each word and action, we clearly see the conflict between authority and fairness, between prejudice and truth. Lisa, with steadfastness and calm, sparked a flame of hope that justice can and must be served. The atmosphere at the airport grew heavier as Lisa was taken into a small room where cold fluorescent lights illuminated the space. Matthews, with an angry and suspicious face, stepped closer to her, holding shiny metal handcuffs under the light. "We have to handcuff you. This is not optional. It's protocol," he said decisively, as if the outcome was already decided. Lisa looked him straight in the eyes, unshaken. "You are arresting the wrong person," she said calmly but clearly with strength. Matthew smirked. "Wrong or not, you still have to comply." A soft sigh escaped Lisa. She knew her words were like a scream in a sea of people. The airport security manager entered, face serious. "Matthews, who is she? She's uncooperative and showing signs of causing trouble." Matthews replied, eyes still fixed on Lisa. The manager looked at Lisa, then back at Matthews with dissatisfaction. "She has the right to be treated fairly. We cannot act arbitrarily." But Matthews remained firm. "If she doesn't cooperate, I will follow procedure." Lisa took a deep breath, preparing for a new battle. "I am a federal prosecutor. I am not causing trouble." Matthews grunted. "This is not a place for arguments." He handcuffed Lisa. The clang of metal echoed coldly, making the atmosphere even more suffocating. Meanwhile, people nearby began to gather, their eyes full of sympathy, but also helplessness. An elderly woman said to her daughter, "This is blatant injustice. She did nothing wrong." A young man filming with his phone said nervously, "We have to record this. Let everyone know the truth." Lisa felt every gaze, the small sparks of hope and empathy in the cold crowd. She told herself, "This fight is not mine alone. It's the fight of many others." Matthews led Lisa down the long corridor. Each step echoed in silence. He said to a colleague, "This will teach her a lesson." The colleague remained silent, his eyes showing no agreement. Lisa sat in the cramped holding cell, her eyes looking out the window but her mind racing. She thought of her family, of Robert waiting outside, ready to fight alongside her. In the darkness of the cell, Lisa focused her thoughts, seeking ways to overcome the challenge. Robert Jennings received a call from Lisa. Her voice trembled slightly but remained resolute. "Robert, they've arrested me. I need your help." Without hesitation, Robert said, "I'm coming right away. Don't worry, you're not alone." The light from the phone illuminated his serious face. This was not just a personal matter, but a fight for justice they both shared. At the police station, Robert entered the holding cell, his eyes locked onto Matthews. "Remove Lisa's handcuffs immediately." Robert ordered, his voice allowing no resistance. Matthews hesitated, but under Robert's sharp gaze, he complied. Robert turned to Lisa, took her hand. "I'm here. We won't let this end like this." Lisa smiled softly. For the first time in hours, she felt some relief. In the days that followed, Lisa and Robert began preparing for the long legal battle ahead. She knew the road would be difficult, but faith and courage would be her strongest weapons. Lisa thought quietly, "This journey will not only change my life, but also be a beacon guiding change for society." Lisa Carter's story, from the first step in handcuffs to standing up for justice, is a reminder of the necessity of fairness and persistence. And above all, an unending belief that justice, though delayed, will ultimately prevail. The cold jail cell grew heavier as Lisa Carter, her wrists still marked by the metal cuffs, sat upright on a small gray chair. The only sound was the steady ticking of the clock on the wall. A young officer, Eric, entered with a clear look of contempt, his eyes probing as if searching for a weakness in her. "Do you know where you are and why you've been arrested?" Eric asked, his tone mocking, half challenging. Lisa did not answer immediately, only looked him straight in the eyes with extraordinary calm. "I know the reason, but that reason does not make me a criminal." Eric shrugged, stepping closer. "Seems like you think you're special, huh? A federal prosecutor. Here everyone's the same." Lisa smiled faintly, but her eyes remained sharp. "I don't think I'm special. I only ask to be treated fairly like anyone else." Eric laughed. "Fairness. In this world, fairness is a luxury." Lisa stood up, her voice clear and powerful. "Fairness is not a luxury. It is everyone's right, and I will never stop demanding it, no matter who I face." Eric was startled. The contempt in his eyes faded, replaced by surprise. Not long after, a higher-ranking officer whom Lisa called Boss Walters entered. She was a middle-aged woman, stern but with a compassionate gaze. "What's going on here?" she asked, looking at Lisa, then turning to Eric. Eric lowered his head, replying, "She's uncooperative, showing signs of resistance." Lisa smiled. "I have fully cooperated. I only ask to be treated with respect." Boss Walters looked at Lisa and nodded slightly. "That's right. Everyone deserves respect, no matter the circumstances." The next day, Lisa was taken to the interrogation room. She knew this was the crucial moment to hold her ground. A new detective arrived named Angela Moore in charge of the investigation. Angela had a reputation for being fair and strict. Angela began with a gentle question. Can you tell me the whole story from the beginning? Lisa sighed, then recounted every detail from the moment she was arrested, the officer's attitudes to her feelings inside. Angela listened attentively, occasionally taking notes, her eyes showing deep empathy. After Lisa left the interrogation room, Angela stayed behind and said to a colleague, "This is not a routine arrest. There are clear signs of racial discrimination." The colleague nodded. "We need to thoroughly review the security footage and interview witnesses around." Angela replied, "Exactly. Justice cannot be compromised by prejudice." Meanwhile, at home, Robert Jennings received a message from Lisa. "I'm staying calm. Prepare for the fight ahead." Robert looked at his phone, his eyes filled with determination. "I won't leave you alone." He immediately called the lawyer and colleagues, starting to plan support for Lisa. The next day at the police station, Lisa faced Matthews once again. "You won't be able to abuse your power forever," Lisa said, her voice unwavering. Matthews responded coldly. "We work for security. You don't understand," Lisa replied. "Security cannot be an excuse for oppression and discrimination." That brief but powerful exchange left a strong impression on everyone who witnessed it. Lisa knew this was only the beginning of a long and difficult battle, but she believed that perseverance and courage would lead the way to justice. Her story was proof of the strength found in calmness and determination when standing up against injustice. The small, cramped jail cell remained silent except for the steady ticking of the clock. Lisa sat upright on the cold metal chair, her eyes shining with firm determination. Suddenly, Officer Ryan Matthews entered. His face changed color, his eyes no longer cold but mixed with worry. He held up his phone, his voice trembling. "We just checked the records. You are Lisa Carter, federal prosecutor." "Right?" Lisa nodded, fearless. "That's right." Matthews sighed and sat down beside her, his voice softer. "I didn't know. If I had known sooner, this wouldn't have happened." Lisa looked him straight in the eyes. "That ignorance caused me to be wrongly arrested and humiliated, and that cannot be forgiven." Matthews lowered his head, his expression full of remorse. "I know I was wrong. I didn't want to hurt anyone." At that moment, Robert Jennings appeared, entering the room with a serious expression. He looked at Matthews, his voice sharp but fair. "Matthews, what you did is not just a personal mistake. It's a sign of a deeper problem in the system." Matthews looked at Robert, then back at Lisa, his eyes showing regret. Robert continued, "Lisa is not only a woman who upholds justice, but also my life partner. I won't allow anyone to abuse their power against her or anyone else." Matthews nodded silently, saying no more. Their conversation completely changed the atmosphere. The tension and hostility vanished, replaced by awareness and the possibility of change. Lisa sighed and said to Matthews, "You can choose to change, to learn, and to start over. That's an opportunity for you and for the police force." Matthews looked at her with determination. "I will try. I won't let this happen again." Robert smiled softly, placing a hand on Matthews' shoulder. "Let's work together to build a fairer justice system." The story of Lisa and Matthews is a profound reminder of the power of truth and forgiveness. It shows that even starting from a mistake with courage and understanding, anyone can change and help create a better society. Robert Jennings, the Atlanta City Police Chief, entered the holding cell dressed sharply in a suit, his gaze unwavering. He stood before Lisa, his eyes full of support and resolve. "Lisa, I know what happened. I will do everything I can to protect you and justice." Lisa gave a small smile, her eyes full of trust. "You don't have to do it alone." Robert turned to look at Ryan Matthews, the young officer still standing there, his face showing clear discomfort. "Matthews, do you understand what this means?" Robert asked, his tone serious but fair. Matthews bowed his head, stammering, I was wrong. I shouldn't have acted like that." Robert stepped forward, raising his hand to interrupt. "This is only the first step. You must take responsibility and change to regain the community's trust." He turned back to Lisa and said, "We will ensure this matter is investigated transparently and fairly. You won't face this alone." Robert clearly understood that his leadership role was not only to manage the police force, but also to protect fairness and public trust. He called a meeting the very next day with the leadership and investigation team. "We cannot let this incident be forgotten or covered up," he said in a calm but weighty voice. The members of the meeting listened attentively, sensing the seriousness of the situation. Robert continued, "We must create an environment where every citizen is respected and every police officer adheres to the highest ethical standards." After the meeting, Robert took time to meet individually with members of the force to encourage and emphasize the importance of transparency and accountability. He also contacted Lisa directly, ensuring she received the necessary support for the upcoming legal battle. "You will never be alone on this journey," Robert said, his eyes shining with certainty. Outside the holding cell, Lisa's supporters began gathering, spreading messages of justice and human rights. Those united voices became the driving force for change and reform within the community. Robert knew his role was not only as a leader, but also as an inspirer, a guardian of trust and fairness. He believed that only when leadership truly cares and acts can justice be fully realized. The story of Lisa and Robert stands as evidence of the power of unity and leadership responsibility in ending injustice. After being released from handcuffs and returning home, Lisa and Robert knew the journey ahead remained full of challenges. They could not let this incident become just another forgotten story among many others. One early morning in Lisa's small study, she sat at the desk holding a pen with a thick file of documents before her. Robert sat beside her, eyes full of support. "We'll handle this seriously, step by step," Robert said, his voice warm but firm. Lisa nodded. "I will file an official complaint with the police department and relevant authorities. We must be transparent so justice isn't obscured." The next day, they went to the police headquarters. The long corridor with cold white lighting made the atmosphere even more tense. Lisa stood at the reception desk, handing over the carefully packaged complaint file. The receptionist glanced through the file, nodded, and directed Lisa to meet Detective Angela Moore, who was in charge of the investigation. Angela looked at Lisa seriously. "We will do our utmost to handle this case fairly and transparently." Lisa replied, "I believe in that fairness. This isn't just my story, but also that of many others." In the small meeting room, Lisa presented the details of the incident from the moment of the check. Matthew's racially biased attitude to the handcuffing and detention. Robert added evidence including video footage capturing Matthew's behavior at the airport and witness statements from nearby passengers. Angela took careful notes, missing no detail. "We must ensure every detail is verified," Angela said. "These documents and testimonies will form the foundation for justice to be served." Robert looked at Lisa, gently encouraging, "I will be with you every step of this path." Lisa smiled, her heart full of faith and determination. The process of filing the internal complaint was not just administrative, but the first step in a complex legal battle. They needed to document every detail, collect witness statements, and ensure evidence was thoroughly gathered. Lisa knew that mistakes or omissions in this process could weaken the case, so she devoted all her passion and seriousness to even the smallest details. In the following days, Lisa and Robert, along with their legal team, planned to face potential challenges from the police department and the union protecting its members. They understood this was not only a fight against Matthews as an individual, but also against a system that had tolerated abuse of power. Lisa recalled her father's words, "Justice never comes by itself. It requires the courage and perseverance of those who stand to defend it." She vowed she would not allow this injustice to continue. This was only the beginning. The road ahead was long and full of trials, but with support from Robert, the legal team, and the community, Lisa felt she was not alone. She was ready to step into the fight to protect justice alongside them. The first day of the investigation opened with a serious atmosphere at the Atlanta City Police Headquarters. Detective Angela Moore, leading the case, entered the meeting room with sharp eyes and firm spirit. "We are facing a serious case," Angela began, her voice clear and compelling. "Everyone in the room, this matter concerns not only Lisa Carter, but raises major questions about the responsibility and ethics of the police force." She emphasized the importance of gathering objective and complete evidence. "Security camera footage is the most important evidence source. We need a comprehensive view of the entire event." The team quickly set to work. They divided tasks. One group reviewed video footage from the airport area. Another group interviewed witnesses and those present at the time. In the video room, Angela and the investigation team sat attentively before a large screen. The security camera clearly showed Lisa walking through the checkpoint, her expression calm and her walk confident. Then came the moment when officers Ryan Matthews and Eric approached, their eyes full of scrutiny and suspicion. Angela paused at the moment. Matthews looked at Lisa with unmistakable contempt. "That look reveals an attitude that is unacceptable in the line of duty," she said. The following scene showed a sudden shift in the two officers' behavior from suspicion to arrest. Meanwhile, the witness interview team gathered important testimonies. A female passenger recalled, "I clearly saw she did nothing suspicious. They treated her like she was a criminal." Another airport staff member said, "I witnessed these two officers checking her documents excessively, even disrespectfully." Angela took careful notes, occasionally asking for clarification on unclear points. In the report meeting, Angela shared current evidence indicates discrimination and abuse of power by the two officers. This is a serious issue that must be thoroughly addressed. Robert Jennings, standing beside Lisa, nodded in agreement. "We will not let anything obscure the truth." Lisa felt strong support from the investigation team and the community. Angela emphasized that technology and witnesses are two vital elements in fighting lies and abuse of power. "We must ensure all evidence is carefully preserved and used appropriately," she said. Lisa's story was gradually being exposed in the light of truth, and nothing could hide it forever. Through the process of gathering evidence, Lisa realized the power of transparency and perseverance in the fight for justice. She told herself, only when the truth is known can justice be served. The investigation room was equipped with a large screen, dim lighting, creating a focused environment for those inside. Detective Angela Moore played the surveillance video, each frame slowly displayed, every detail meticulously analyzed. The first scene showed Lisa Carter walking out of the security checkpoint, calm and confident, without a hint of suspicion. Then two officers, Ryan Matthews and Eric, approached from behind, their eyes cold, scrutinizing Lisa's every move clearly. Angela pointed at the screen, her voice warm but firm. "Look closely at Matthews' eyes here. This is not objective suspicion, but prejudice, subtle racial discrimination." Every gesture and motion of the two officers was magnified on the screen, from their excessive document checks to their rough treatment of Lisa. "This is abuse of power, the serious violation of citizens' rights," Angela stressed. When the video showed Matthews handcuffing Lisa, the room fell silent, so quiet that one could hear everyone's steady breathing. At that moment, Angela softly said, "We cannot allow these acts to continue. This evidence is a vivid testament to the truth." Lisa looked at the screen, feeling a mix of pain and strength. Pain from injustice, strength because the truth was coming to light. Outside the investigation room, witnesses began to speak up. Those who had witnessed the incident confirmed the video's authenticity. One witness said, "I saw everything. Lisa did not cause any trouble and remained polite in every situation." Another said, "The attitude of the two officers was completely unacceptable." The combination of video and testimony created a complete, undeniable picture. Angela emphasized the indispensable role of technology in the fight against injustice. Surveillance cameras not only protect security, but also protect justice. She continued, "These images will be strong evidence to refute any false testimonies." In the following days, the video was shared in meetings, changing many people's perspectives on the case. Robert Jennings told Lisa, "The truth is finally being properly recognized." Lisa responded, her eyes shining brightly. "This fight isn't over, but this is an important step forward." Lisa Carter's story demonstrates the power of visual evidence in combating abuse of power and discrimination. It is not just a personal case, but also proof of fairness and progress in society. In the case processing room, steady footsteps echoed as witnesses were called one by one to give their statements. First to testify was Mrs. Helen, an elderly passenger who witnessed the entire incident at the airport. She sat upright, her eyes full of determination. "I saw her, Lisa Carter, walking normally, showing no signs of causing trouble or reacting negatively. When the two officers approached, I clearly sensed the injustice." Mrs. Helen sighed. "The scrutinizing looks, unnecessary words, and the way they handcuffed her. That is not justice." Next, David, an airport staff member, stepped up. He spoke in a calm tone. "I was standing nearby and clearly saw the difference in how they treated Lisa compared to others. She was questioned excessively and thoroughly checked." David said he had recorded the entire event on his phone and was ready to provide the video for the investigation. A young woman named Mia, a first-time visitor to Atlanta, spoke emotionally. I feel unfairness on her behalf. As a foreigner, I would also be worried if I were in that situation. We need to speak out against racial discrimination. Angela Moore carefully took notes of every testimony, her eyes sparkling with faith and determination. The witnesses' statements not only helped clarify the truth, but also show community support for Lisa and justice. Additionally, community organizations began spreading messages and campaigning against racial discrimination and abuse of power within the police force. A community meeting was held downtown, attracting hundreds of attendees. Lisa appeared at the meeting, her voice gentle yet persuasive. I am not the only one who has experienced this. Many others are affected by injustice. We must unite to bring about change. The community's support not only strengthened Lisa, but also put pressure on the legal and police systems. Angela Moore said during the investigation, community involvement is crucial in protecting justice. Their voices make it impossible to deny the truth. These powerful testimonies became building blocks for fairness and transparency. They clarified not only the individual case, but also reflected a social reality in need of change. Robert Jennings stood beside Lisa, his eyes full of pride and confidence. We are on the right path. The truth is gradually being recognized and justice is coming closer. The hearing continued and the atmosphere in the courtroom grew tense to a suffocating degree. Officers Ryan Matthews and Eric stood before the bench, their eyes defensive and calculating. Their lawyer, Mark Benson, confidently took the podium, speaking loudly and clearly. Your Honor, my client committed no wrongdoing. All accusations are misunderstandings and baseless exaggerations, he said. He then looked at Lisa, Ms. Carter. Maybe a prosecutor, but that does not put her above the law. Matthews testified with a firm attitude. I was only following procedure and doing my duty. If Ms. Carter feels unfairly treated, that is not my fault, Eric echoed. We behaved appropriately and professionally. Lisa sat in the courtroom, her gaze sharp and determined. She knew these words were merely a staged act to cover up the truth. During a recess, she stepped out to meet Detective Angela Moore. It's not easy when they try to deny and shift blame, Angela said, her eyes showing empathy. Lisa replied, I'm not surprised. The truth is always challenged, but I won't let them overshadow it. Lawyer Mark Benson continued presenting legal strategies to lessen the officer's responsibility. We will prove there are many factors that cause misunderstandings. My client deserves protection. However, the surveillance video evidence and witness testimonies painted a clear picture of abuse of power and racial discrimination. Legal experts involved in the trial analyzed this as a common tactic in cases involving law enforcement, denying responsibility, blaming the victim or circumstances, trying to divert public attention. Lisa thought silently, this is not just about me. It's about preventing repeated mistakes and protecting others' rights. Her determination inspired many following the case, becoming a symbol of courage. Outside the courtroom, Robert shared with a group of reporters, we believe in justice and truth. Despite difficulties, we will not give up. The defense dragged on, but the truth was proven through each video clip and each authentic testimony. Deceit and denial could not hide the light of truth. The trial entered a new phase as the lawyers for the two officers began using every legal tactic to protect their clients. Mark Benson, legal representative for Matthews and Eric, relied not only on legal evidence, but also called for support from the police union, a powerful and deeply influential organization within the force. Our union will do everything to protect officers from unfair accusations, Benson declared in court, his voice authoritative. Behind the scenes, intense closed-door meetings took place with union representatives, lawyers, and senior officials. Pressure was applied to the investigation team to slow progress and lessen accusations. Angela Moore, leading the investigation, remained concerned. The police union can create a legal wall that delays or even diverts justice. Lisa Carter felt this invisible pressure, but did not let it weaken her resolve. They may use any tactics, but the truth will never be buried. A press conference was held where union representatives spoke out to defend the officers under the banner of protecting our brothers in the force. A union spokesperson said, we cannot accept officers being unjustly criticized. Each of us works under pressure and danger every day. However, the community and social organizations responded strongly. Protecting our brothers cannot mean condoning abuse of power and racial discrimination. Robert Jennings, as police chief, had to balance pressure from the union and the responsibility to protect the police department's reputation. He told his team, "We must be transparent and fair. No one is above the law, no matter who they are." Robert understood that to maintain public trust, he had to act decisively and firmly. Legal experts analyze that while police unions protect members' rights, they can sometimes become obstacles in cases involving abuse of power. This requires a delicate balance between protecting the force and ensuring social justice. Throughout the investigation and trial, Lisa was supported by allies from lawyers to social activists. Together, they fought not just for this case, but for a more transparent and fair justice system. The trial concluded, but pressure from the union and public scrutiny had not eased. Lisa and Robert knew they stood on an important foundation, opening hope for greater change ahead. Amid the tension of the case, Robert Jennings was not only head of Atlanta's police, but also the keeper of justice and leadership responsibility. One morning, Robert convened a meeting with the leadership and senior officers in the police department's central conference room. Soft yellow lights illuminated the serious faces, all focused on his words. "We face a major test," Robert began, his voice confident yet inspiring. "This is not just a personal matter or a simple misconduct case. It's an opportunity to demonstrate transparency, fairness, and responsibility as a public institution." The meeting members nodded in agreement, deeply sensing the importance of this message. Robert continued, "I will personally oversee the investigation to ensure everyone in the force complies with the law and the highest ethical standards. We cannot tolerate any abuse of power or racial discrimination." A young officer raised his head and asked, "What do you think about pressure from the union and public opinion?" Robert answered straightforwardly, "Pressure is inevitable when we choose to stand for justice. But it is precisely within that pressure that we must remain steadfast in our values." Outside the meeting room, Robert spent time meeting individually with officers, emphasizing the importance of transparency and respect for human rights. He met Matthews, speaking gently but firmly. "You need to realize that power comes with responsibility. Change starts with you." Matthews lowered his head, eyes full of remorse. "I will try to make amends." Robert nodded. "That's what I want to hear." In public, Robert did not hesitate to express his stance. "I am committed to creating a fair environment where every citizen of Atlanta is respected and protected. Justice must be served regardless of who you are." This message was widely supported by the public and praised by the media as a symbol of positive change. Robert also encouraged the police department to participate in cultural awareness and anti-racism training programs. He believed leadership was not only about command, but also about inspiring and paving the way for profound change. The story of Robert and Lisa became a source of inspiration, demonstrating the power of leadership responsibility in promoting justice and social peace. After tense and challenging days, Lisa Carter sat quietly in her small room at home. The soft afternoon light filtered through the window, casting a gentle glow on her tired yet resilient face. Robert sat beside her, gently holding her hand, his eyes full of support and love. "You've been very strong, Lisa. I'm proud of you," Robert said, his voice tender, as if soothing all the pain. Lisa sighed, her gaze distant. "Sometimes I wonder if I have the strength to keep going. Everything seems too big, too heavy." Robert softly replied, "Strength isn't always physical. It's the power of the heart and spirit. You've shown that." Recalling moments in the jail cell when she remained calm despite unfair treatment, Lisa felt her inner strength growing. "I've learned that standing up for justice means fighting not only for myself, but also for those who have no voice." She shared stories of women and men who overcame similar hardships, like Rosa Parks and Malala Yousafzai. One day, Lisa participated in a mental health seminar for people struggling with work and social pressures. She stood up speaking with inspiring conviction. "Resilience is not about never falling, but about knowing how to rise every time you stumble." The audience listened intently. Some nodded in agreement, others were moved to tears. In a television interview, Lisa emphasized, "Though there were times I felt I couldn't continue, I knew courage and persistence would carry me through every challenge." She encouraged everyone, especially those facing injustice, Never let silence become complicity. Find the strength within to speak out. Robert was always by her side, not only as emotional support, but also as a great source of inspiration. I believe your greatest strength is your calmness and compassion, Robert said in a private conversation. Lisa's story is not just a personal journey, but a testament to the power of resilience in life. It reminds us that despite difficulties and challenges, courage and persistence will always lead us to justice and truth. On the day the trial began, the courtroom was filled with natural light, yet the atmosphere inside was tense as a drawn bowstring. Lisa Carter entered each step gentle yet confident. Her gaze did not avoid, but looked directly at the jury and everyone present in the courtroom. Robert Jennings walked beside her, his eyes full of support and faith in his partner. Jurors were called one by one, listening carefully to every testimony and piece of evidence presented. The prosecutor's lawyer opened with a strong and persuasive voice. Your Honor, today, we are not just trying a wrongful arrest, but also trying the very values of justice and fairness in society. Lisa was called to the stand. She stood tall, her voice clear and strong. I am not the only one who has experienced discrimination and injustice. I represent millions judged solely by their skin color and background. She recounted every detail of the incident, not hiding her emotions but maintaining calmness and professionalism. When the surveillance video was played, all eyes followed every frame, every clear gesture of the parties involved. The courtroom fell silent, deeply sensing the injustice and abuse of power that had occurred. The defense lawyers for the two officers tried to present arguments to lessen their responsibility, but the truth was too clear and undeniable. Lisa responded firmly, "The truth cannot be denied by words or legal tricks. Justice must be served." Throughout the trial, sharp questions, truthful testimonies, and undeniable evidence shook many defenses supporting wrongdoing. Robert whispered to Lisa, "You're doing great. Your voice is changing the game." Lisa smiled, feeling the power of truth and justice spreading through the room. At the end of the trial, the judge looked down at the jury and said, "We will consider all evidence and testimonies to deliver a fair and transparent verdict." Tension filled the courtroom as everyone awaited the final result. The trial was not just a legal event, but a symbol of the fight against injustice and racial discrimination. Lisa and Robert knew that no matter the outcome, this journey had opened a door of hope for many others. The trial lasted weeks with tense days and agonizing waits for Lisa, Robert, and all their supporters. Finally, the decisive day arrived. The courtroom was flooded with light, yet everyone remained anxious and tense. The judge entered, his voice resonating in the silence. After reviewing all evidence, testimonies, and arguments, the court finds officers Ryan, Matthews, and Eric guilty of abuse of power and racial discrimination in the arrest of Lisa Carter. The courtroom erupted in cheers. Lisa's supporters rejoiced and loved ones embraced in tears of happiness. Matthews and Eric were immediately dismissed. This firm decision sent a clear message that abuse of power and racial discrimination would not be tolerated. Robert stood beside Lisa, holding her hand tightly, his eyes full of pride. "We have won not only for ourselves, but for all who fight for justice." Lisa smiled, tears streaming down her cheeks. Justice has finally been served, but this is only the beginning. The media widely covered the trial, turning the case into a symbol of the struggle against injustice and racial discrimination within the police force. Articles, television programs, and social media were flooded with discussions calling for reform and greater transparency in public institutions. Lisa participated in many talks, sharing her story to inspire the community and social activists. "I'm not here out of hatred or revenge," she said at a seminar. "I'm here to protect justice and everyone's rights." Lisa's story became a powerful symbol of change and hope. Robert spoke at a community meeting. "We must continue to monitor and build a transparent justice system, uncompromising against injustice." The court's decision was not only a personal victory, but also a turning point in the effort to build a fairer and more inclusive society. After intense months, the trial concluded, and Lisa Carter's life began a new chapter. Her wedding with Robert Jennings was held in a warm space where loved ones gathered, sharing joy and hope. Lisa stood in a pure white dress, her eyes sparkling as she looked at Robert, her partner and companion, through all the ups and downs. "We have overcome so much," Lisa said, her voice full of emotion, "but the journey is still long. Robert gently held her hand. I will always be by your side, facing the future with you. Family and friends gathered embracing in overwhelming joy. They knew this victory was not just an end, but a beginning of positive change. Lisa shared truth and justice have won, but it's important we continue fighting to protect those values. The Atlanta community showed strong support for Lisa and Robert. Parades and public discussions on injustice and human rights were widely held, creating a wave of positive change. A local resident shared Lisa's story and inspired us not only by courage, but also by the power of unity. Lisa began participating in numerous programs and events to raise awareness about racial discrimination and abuse of power within public forces. She said at a forum, "We cannot accept silence in the face of injustice. Every voice matters." Robert, as police chief, continued promoting reform programs within the department to build a fairer and more transparent force. He told his team, "We must be defenders of justice, not just enforcers of the law." Lisa and Robert co-authored a book recounting their journey, hoping to inspire many others. Their story stands as a testament to the power of truth, courage, and perseverance. The story of Lisa Carter and Robert Jennings is not just an isolated case, but a wake-up call about racial discrimination and abuse of power in public institutions across the United States. In workshops and social justice forums, Lisa often shares, "My case reflects a deep reality that many people still suffer injustice and prejudice in their daily lives." At a police reform conference held in Washington, D.C., Robert spoke before a large gathering of leaders and policymakers. "We can no longer delay building a police force that is fair, transparent, and respectful of human rights." He emphasized the importance of training programs on cultural awareness, conflict resolution, and communication skills within law enforcement. Sociologists and legal experts participating in the discussions pointed out that cases like Lisa's result from a system lacking transparency and tolerating misconduct. They proposed solutions including establishing independent commissions to oversee police activities, enhancing training on cultural diversity and anti-racism, building transparent systems for reporting and handling violations. Community groups, especially minority organizations, began organizing meetings to share experiences and find ways to protect their rights. Lisa and Robert became leaders of this movement, helping raise awareness and promote positive change. On social media, the #JusticeForLisa quickly spread, attracting attention and support from millions nationwide. Similar stories were shared, creating a stronger movement against racial discrimination and abuse of power than ever before. Robert shared in an interview, "We're not just talking about one case, but about the future of our society. Justice is not just a concept, but must be action." Lisa concluded, "We must keep fighting not just for ourselves, but for future generations." Their story is a powerful call to everyone from governments to individuals to act together to build a fair society where justice is enforced strictly and without discrimination. The morning light filtered through the window, illuminating Lisa Carter's face, a woman who had weathered storms and now stood before a new journey, not only for herself, but for the community. She sat in her small room reflecting on all she had been through, from the moment of mistaken arrest, the tense legal battle, to the ultimate victory of justice. Lisa sighed, her voice gentle yet full of emotion. "My story is nothing special. It is the story of many who have been treated unjustly. It reminds us that justice never comes naturally. We must stand up, speak out, and fight for it to be served." Robert Jennings sat beside her, holding her hand tenderly. "Justice is a flame that must be kept burning by the courage of each of us. No one can replace that role." Lisa posed a profound question. Have you ever asked yourself in this society what you would do when witnessing injustice? Will you stay silent or speak out? Will you choose to stand for justice or be a bystander? She called on listeners not to be mere spectators, but justice warriors, those who hold the power to change society. Share this story, speak out against racial discrimination. Be the change so injustice has no chance to survive. In the final moment, Lisa looked straight at the audience, her gaze firm. Justice is never distant. It begins with us, with the courage to speak the truth. That closing statement echoed, stirring in everyone a belief, a commitment, not just for today, but for all tomorrows. And now it is your turn, the listener, to step out of the shadows, become part of change, part of justice. Subscribe to the channel to never miss inspiring stories, and don't forget to share to spread the power of justice. Because if we don't speak up, who will speak for us? Thank you for listening.